So the other part about grief for me is that I was grieving and I didn't even know I was grieving. I was stuck in grief. When my mother died, I was stuck in grief. But what I was taught was that when someone leaves you, there's a piece of your heart that is missing, and things change. Things change in your life. That person's not there. So you have to live your life in a whole nother way. Whether it's because physically you're having some challenges and you went through surgery, or you've gotten rid of someone, or someone has passed on to be with the Lord. And I think I had to be shooken out of coma because I felt like I was kind of just living. I mean, living, like literally getting up out of bed, going to work like a zombie, just drinking. I basically had lost my mind and didn't know it. I thought I was sane. But I was dealing with the grief of losing my mother. During that time, I shouldn't have had no relationships. I shouldn't have had anything. I was meeting friends. I was having relationships. I knew I was in my right mind. I just knew it. I knew everything was good. Sure. Oh yeah, you lost your mom who's giving you all of the support that you've ever needed, and now that person is not there anymore. And it's as easy as going to a funeral and coming home and, oh, let's get back to normal.
No, it's not. But I think that's another something that we should be aware of is that when we start doing things that are not normal, behaviors, activities, the way we respond to things,
That's good.
those are signs that can let us know or indicate to us that we may be grieving after we've experienced a great loss in our life. So, I think being more mindful with yourself, right? Going back to that being selfish part, being more aware of you, right? Because when you're focusing on you, knowing what you need so that you can give that to yourself, and being more aware and conscious with yourself so that when things do arise, that you can acknowledge them and work through them.
Absolutely. That's good, Jodi. So they say grief is also, it's basically grieving. You're coping with grief. It can vary. It can vary. It varied for me. It varied for Jodi. It can vary for you. But you have to find support, family, counseling. Allow yourself to feel those emotions.
Yes.
Give yourself time to heal. I remember going through grief of a relationship. I remember going over to my mom's house every evening when I got off work because it was hard to go home by myself. Now, this was some years ago, but I remember being in that space on weekends. I would be bored and I would start feeling those emotions because I broke off this relationship and I don't have anybody now. And so I go over to my mom and dad's house and I would chill with them until it got dark, and then I go home like, okay, but I had to have something to do to get myself through that grieving process. And even in the fact, some of us don't use our family. Like, I felt like I was in my grief by myself, but I have a brother and I got 2 sisters. But I'm at home, like, I don't have anybody.
Yeah. That was the depression part where we shut ourselves in when we get depressed because we feel like we're alone and that there's nobody else there. But we forget that, like you said, it wasn't just your mom, right? You got siblings and family and relatives that they have to clearly be grieving also. So that's important too. Talking to people in your family, right?
Yes.
But that goes into our next tip, right, is that forgiveness, right? Sometimes it's hard to talk to our family because we got to work some things out and forgive. And going through loss can make these situations arise a lot of times, when we are experiencing, especially like a death, per se, with a loved one. Your family comes together generally, and sometimes you have to see people that maybe you don't really want to see because you have some unresolved issues, right? Or even maybe with the person that passed, maybe there were some things you didn't get to say, changes they didn't get to see. And forgiveness goes a long way through the process of letting things go, right? So when things happen to us, right, it's what they say, we never forget. We can forgive, but we don't forget. And so in the process of letting go is how we forgive. Trusting in God that He's going to take care of our needs, right? And allowing Him to heal and mend and deal with the situation for us is a part of that process of forgiveness. And two, also thinking about, if forgiveness of yourself or other people. We have to think about, how did we get to that situation? So I think about being a parent, and through my process of healing, I talk to my children about their experience from their perspective of life growing up, because it's not always the same as mine from the parental perspective. And even with my own mom and parents, thinking about, I wish my mom would have did this, or, XYZ happened, and, now I'm traumatized and have abandonment issues. And it's like, why did that happen? And just giving people grace and understanding that they too have experienced things in life that have affected how, they view life and how they behave and act in life. As parents, right, we do the best we can with the knowledge and resources and, tools that we have available to us. And so just understanding that impacts how we parent, right? And so just understanding that my parents were human. They didn't have all the answers. They didn't have all the resources all the time. They didn't have all the tools, and that they were just trying to do the best they could with what they had. And I think in that aspect, I was able to forgive myself and my parents in that aspect of, just understanding that we are all just trying to give the best that we have when it comes to our children and our family. And you can only do what you got. You don't know what you don't know. And that's just the reality. And not holding on to those feelings of frustration and confusion and distrust and all of those things, which keep us from letting go, right? Allows us to give it to God, right? When you give that stuff to God, it gives you that relief, right? It takes that burden off of your chest. Isaiah 43:18 says, forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing, and now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. When we try to hold on to things, right, it creates barriers in our life. And so being able to forgive people, right, that process of letting go and trusting in the Lord gives us peace. Gives other people grace, gives ourselves grace. Because as we hold on to things and hold it against people, it just creates a block in ourselves also. So, we think that we're holding a grudge against somebody, or we can't forgive them for something that they did. We're not hurting them. You're hurting yourself because you're blocking you putting this block inside of you, and now you walking around with this heaviness and this weight. Seek the Lord in all you do. Give it to God. That's my best suggestion on how to deal with forgiveness.
And you know what? And the thing about it is, forgiveness is one of those things. I think sometimes for people, or for my situation, and that's why I wanted Jodi to take it over, because I've been hurt so many times, and I know other people have been hurt so many times. But sometimes it's like, Lord, I can't take another blow. But God also reminds me, if you would have talked to me, maybe you wouldn't have even been in that situation. So you have to kind of hold your own self accountable for your part in the situation. And there's this really good book that I'm trying to read called The Bait of Satan. And it talks about forgiving and how that it only hurts, it's only hurting you. But sometimes in the midst of forgiving people, you want to get this revenge that you're never going to be able to get. Because if you look at your life and you look at everything you're doing, do you have the time, the energy, the space to even do that? And so that's why I make it a point, even though I didn't know that's what the book was about, to attempt to read it and to work on my emotions. Because forgiveness is tied to emotions. Whatever they did to me, it happened. It's probably going to happen again. Okay? In the field I'm in, I told my sister the other day, I could just revolt back from everything and just stay at home, go to work, come home, have my little circle, and don't deal with any drama. But the life I'm treading on, it's not going to be the last.
It's not going to happen. You can't grow that way. That's how you stay in your circle, right?
Ooh, so I was listening to this pastor, John Hanna, who's going to be a bishop one day. I'm speaking it. But he talked about forgiveness. But he also talked about what we go through in a relationship and the people we choose, and the fact that those people may be assigned to you to destroy your life. And a lot of times, again, we get mad at them and we can't forgive them. But have we ever thought that they may be a tool being used by the devil? It's not even them. It's the devil being used through them, and they don't even know it. So in this segment of what he said, you fell in love with what never loved you. It was never assigned to love you. It was assigned to crush you, to move you out of your seat. Because, see, you have a seat. You have a purpose. You have a plan. You have a story that God has for you. And people come along to move you off your seat. So you can't get mad and be ready to box them, because it's Satan that's behind them. And I'm realizing that right now. Because, see, if I'm off my focus, my writing, everything I do is just slowed down. You miss things. You miss other opportunities thinking about other people. And so it also says that